Hi, I'm David Strickel, creator of the TYA Mindset Practice, and we are going to talk about creating momentum. I think it's important to understand momentum because if you are new to this practice, you are hearing me talking about appreciation of all things. And inevitably, if you're really new to it, if you're new to this type of mindset, if this is something you're just really discovering for the first time, and you hear somebody say appreciation of all things, it is likely that your mind races right to the very worst things that you can possibly think of for humanity or even for yourself. How in the world could I ever appreciate blank? And I get those questions a lot on social media, the people that are just discovering. Now, I believe that if somebody is really intrigued by this practice, they want to learn more automatically. And so they're going to go and find that information. So a lot of times I don't even bother answering those questions because a lot of times I know that it's kind of just a trolling mindset that's coming, wanting to stir up some trouble because I've done that. I have actually tried to respond and have a conversation. These folks don't want to have a dialogue. They just want to be angry. They just want to shut down whatever I'm talking about. That's a clear sign of the matrix. People that are operating deep in the matrix get triggered by things that lift them out of the matrix. And the matrix by design is going to draw you right back in. So if you're operating really deep in the matrix, you are deeply polarized, you are thinking in a very one-dimensional way. Everything is divided into this is good and all that is evil. And the issue there is that all of that stuff that we label evil, the people that are in the matrix have no clue what to do with all that. They want to fight it. They want to battle it. They want to demonize it. They want to eradicate it. They want to go buy more guns. They want to have more weapons. They want to do more things to just make it go away. They want to pretend like it doesn't exist. Whatever they're labeling it should not be. They fight and fight and fight and fight. And notice that at no time in recorded history has any of that stuff ceased to be. All of the things that get demonized in the Matrix, hatred, division, I'm talking both sides here, alternate lifestyles, if you will, war, famine, injustice, all of these things that we demonize never get solved ever because we are feeding them. We're giving them life in our demonization of them. And people that are operating in the matrix don't see that. And they're not going to see that as long as they're allowing themselves to stay stuck in that matrix and basically thinking the way the matrix is telling them to think. That's what media is all about. Media is driving you deeper and deeper into the matrix. Now, I'm not trying to demonize media. I know that we can really get caught up in that. I just want to see clearly because you can see clearly and see things clearly for what they really are without demonizing them because the matrix serves a purpose. The matrix serves the purpose of creating a drag on source expansion. Because if there was no drag on source expansion, then source, the source of all creation, would simply allow everything that we can conceive to be created instantaneously, and the universe would spiral out and just this big amalgam of positive creation, and it would cease to be. There would be no purpose in physical creation, actually, because the purpose of physical creation is new thought. And think about it. If we get every single thing that we want, then how are we inspired toward new thought? We eventually tire of the things that we've created, and maybe that would spark a little bit of new thought. But most of the new thought is a result of our dissatisfaction with what is. So if we are manifesting a mix of things that we want and things that we don't want, we're always going to be inspired in a more controlled way, if you will, toward new creation. So that's why the matrix exists. That's why all this stuff is happening. But humanity has really amped up the matrix, this collective mindset of labeling things as should not be. And the reason that is amping up is because more and more of us are turning and questioning. More and more of us are finding a new way. And the new way out of the matrix is through appreciation of it and all that is. So if you want to start a practice of appreciation and your mind immediately races toward, well, how could I ever appreciate whatever it is that you want to fill in that blank with? There's plenty of stuff I understand that you could put there. Don't start there. Understand that the practice of TYA and the practice of what I call radical appreciation, I label it radical just because the concept of appreciating all that is very radical in the matrix. So sometimes I want to get your attention by saying, hey, this is radical stuff that I'm teaching here, but it's radically effective as well. That's the key. So the practice of radical appreciation is about starting with the smaller transgressors of your life and of the world. Things that you realize that you're allowing to annoy you, but you don't have to allow them to annoy you. It's just when you're in a low vibrational period that the little things can really get under your skin. And you know this. And what I do in my practice, and part of the TYA practice, is really catching yourself where you are vibrationally all the time. And we're not going to sit and think about our vibration 100% of the time, but I do think about it throughout the day. And certainly when I catch myself in lower vibration emotions, meaning I'm demonizing something or I'm annoyed by something or things just aren't really working, it's my catch. It's my aha, I'm in a low vibrational flow right now. Or if you and your partner or your business partner or your coworker or your children are having this little rift and it seems like no matter what you say or do, it doesn't get better, it just gets worse. And you're sort of doubling down on whatever it is you're wanting to fight about. Your relationship is moving through a low vibrational period. And when you recognize that, and even more powerfully, if you're able to both recognize that, then you can move through and right out of that period easily. And anything that's going on in that low vibrational period can ultimately be appreciated. But vibration operates on a spectrum. So there are things that we create momentum with. We start demonizing a little and then we get more to demonize. We demonize a little more and we're going to get even more to demonize. And pretty soon we go from someone that we were at one time head over heels in love with all the way over to the other side of the spectrum to someone that we hate. Isn't it amazing how that happens? How we can be in love with someone and then move all the way over to hate? Because they're sort of equal. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. They're both polarized, but they have equal power. They have equal power. That's why they say the opposite of hate is actually indifference. When you just don't care and don't give it any more power, that is very different than hating something. Because when you're hating something, you are fueling those lower vibrational emotions. But you built momentum to get there. So momentum works on all vibrational topics, and detuning is a vibration in and of itself. So if you're working to detune transgressors and you are wanting to make radical appreciation, or just appreciation if that works for you, part of your daily practice, looking for things to appreciate. When you find something that you demonize, realize that you are in a lower vibrational state. And what can I instead find to appreciate about this situation? And if it's a personal situation that you've been with for a long time and you've allowed a lot of momentum to build, let's use something extreme, for example, and say, let's say that you are in an abusive relationship and a lot of momentum is built around the fear and judgment of that situation, as should not be, understandably, because no one wants to be abused. But understand that you have gone far down this path. And if you try to race to detuning that before detuning the other smaller things, you're probably not going to be successful. Better to soften the energy as much as you can. And I know it sounds insane outside of this practice to, well, how in the hell could I appreciate the person that's abusive toward me, mentally, physically, or otherwise? Well, obviously, if a lot of momentum has been created and you're in a really negative situation that is damaging to you in some way, you need to do anything that you can to separate yourself from that situation. Because what I call an active transgressor is far more difficult to detune than a transgressor that you have some distance from, either in time or space or both. So yes, if you're in harm's way, get yourself out of harm's way. Think enough of you to get out of harm's way, and then do the detuning work from a distance. Don't try to dive into detuning while someone is physically or emotionally beating the crap out of you. I would never suggest that. You can't do that. It's not possible because the momentum is already created to get you to that point. What you want to do is separate yourself, do the detuning work in that extreme example later. And certainly, if you're detuning as an exercise, start working on the softer, smaller things that aren't such a big deal in your life. And then you will actually create detuning momentum. And you will then start raising your default vibration. The higher your default vibration goes, the more you are then able to detune anything. And when you're down here, when you're operating in lower vibration most of the time, and most of humanity, mind you, is operating below neutral around -5. Remember that. And if you are really suffering in your life, your default vibration is lower than that even. If you are in a suffering state, you are probably operating around -10 or even lower. And if you're much lower than that, then you're in deep depression, and you really need to start way lower as far as momentum goes on the things that you're detuning if you're that far down. I don't even recommend detuning exercises if you are -15 to -20, because you're just not capable of doing that in that low of vibration. You are loathing, you're angry, you're enraged, you're hating someone else, perhaps you're hating yourself, you're in deep depression. You're not capable of this type of work down there. You're not. That's why I recommend low thought activities when you're down there. I know it sounds silly. You're deeply depressed, go iron some clothes or go do some gardening, but doing something to simply disrupt that downward spiral is very powerful. And the trick is when you're really down there, you don't want to do anything. You just want to sit and stew and build more momentum. It's sort of like a vacuum that you're caught in. And to save yourself from that experience, and maybe even save your physical self altogether, you've got to find a way to disrupt that. And the trying to meditate is not going to work. Appreciation exercises are not going to work. You've got to start slow and build momentum up. So you're going to go do a low thought activity. And then when you feel a little better, when you feel a little bit of relief, then you can build upon that and understand where you are. So if you are in deep depression or deep rage, you've got to disrupt that somehow by withdrawing your attention from what's causing that and doing some sort of low thought activity that just takes your mind away from it. When you start to feel a little bit of improvement, then you go into appreciation exercises. You're not going to try to meditate yet because you're not high enough on the spiral to do that. You're going to go into, what can I find in this moment to appreciate? Find something, even if you are nowhere near appreciation, you've got to find something to save yourself from that moment. You've got to find something to raise your vibration. Appreciation is going to be it. Then from there, once your vibration is high enough, then you can go into meditation, quieting your mind, doing some breath work. And I promise you, the more you do TYA, the more you practice TYA, the higher your default vibration will go, and the closer that inner source being will be to realization for you. I'm at a point now in my practice where no matter what's going on, I can stop and breathe for just a moment, and boom, my vibration goes right back up in a moment. In a moment. But I have created momentum in a positive direction to be able to get myself there. And that's the work that we're doing here. So don't try to race up your spiral. Understand it's all about momentum. You've got to do the steps to create the positive momentum. And don't try to detune the worst of the worst transgressors, because if your default vibration is below neutral and you're trying to wrap your mind around appreciating the Holocaust or appreciating mass shootings or appreciating, children being abused, you're nowhere near that. You're nowhere near that. And remember that when I say appreciation, I do not mean celebration. I mean such deep understanding that you're no longer judging and it should not be. It's very hard in the matrix to wrap your mind around that, but that's what source is. That's what source is. And source is in all of us. So we have access to a vibration, the most powerful, loving, creative, expansive vibration there is universally. We have access to that within us. It creates us, it creates our world. It's in us. But we're operating in this matrix that says, oh, no, never again. You can never appreciate that. That is awful. That is terrible. You have to build a wall of no, you're never going to cross the line of appreciating that. And when you're operating at -5 or lower than that, you're not going to be able to fathom how you could appreciate things like that. So don't start there. Don't allow the matrix to draw your attention over there. Oh, this bald dude on TikTok is telling you that you need to appreciate all that is. But what about children? What about the children that are being, that's the game the matrix plays with us. Don't worry about that. I'm not trying to appreciate that right now. I'm trying to appreciate the things in my life that I know are dragging my vibration down, that are creating my abundance blocks, that are keeping me and my personal experience away from the things that I want to have. The reason the news media loves to dance all of these things in front of us on the news, the worst of the worst. Look at this flood. Look at this famine. Look at this war. You need to be afraid. Because it takes your power away. It lowers your vibration. It delivers a drag on your source energy. But in TYA, we're aware of all of that. The stream has delivered enough awareness. And for me, and I hope for you that are practicing this, it all starts to fall into place and make perfect sense. More so than anything I have ever encountered anywhere, certainly in any religion or any other mindset practice. I'm not saying TYA is superior. I'm just saying that I have found great clarity in what the stream is offering to all of us. And what the stream is offering to you is as tools for you to go in and realize your own version of the stream, because you've got it within you. The source is in all of us. The stream is my source. I have done the work to allow more of that to flow. I have done the work to detune fear and judgment. I've done the work that allows me to conceptualize the appreciation of all that is. I'm not there all the time, but I can access that. And that's what's important, that you have access to that. So when you're viewing humanity and you're viewing the worst of the worst, and usually the worst of the worst is not actually happening to us. Usually the worst of the worst is happening to someone else. And in this world of vast instantaneous information, it's presented to us, via our device instantly, all the time, if we choose. And even if we don't choose, a lot of times we find ourselves getting drawn into, oh my gosh, there's flooding in Las Vegas this weekend, or Burning Man was completely rained out. And it looks so terrible. And it looks so dystopian. It looks so awful. And I didn't judge any of that. I didn't judge any of that as, oh, that shouldn't be happening to those poor people. That's the experience they're having. And when I got into that vibration, I started seeing some other things over the weekend where it wasn't nearly as bad as some people were painting it to be. Not nearly as bad. It was just an experience. They went to Burning Man, it rained, and they're okay. And so I know that when you get into this practice, it can be very difficult to start the detuning of the biggest transgressors. Do not start there. Start with smaller things, build momentum, understand where you are vibrationally in general. Understand that your general vibration in this practice is going to go higher and higher and higher through ups and downs. You don't just go straight up. You go up, down, up, down, up, down, but you generally are going to go higher and higher in vibration. And the higher you go, the more you have access to that appreciation of all things, energy, and it makes you a unicorn in your environment. It absolutely does. And you need to work on your appreciation of how you want to handle the sharing of your belief system, if you want to share it at all. Now, detuning fear will take you to a place where you don't mind sharing the concepts, but understand that everyone else outside of this and things like it are operating in the matrix. And when they're operating in the matrix, what are they doing? They're wanting you to be right there with them where they are. Like enjoys like vibration connection. And generally, if you're interacting with somebody, there is some element of your vibration that is creating that connection or that interaction. It may not be a connection at all. It may be the opposite of that. But the vibration is creating the interaction. So if you're interacting with somebody and they're wanting to draw you into, this is so wrong, this is so awful, and you're not willing to go there, you've got to have enough inner strength to be able to handle that conversation, separate yourself from it, change the subject, walk away if you must, or do that little catch that we teach you. Is this worth going down my spiral over? I had a situation just a few years ago in 2020 during the Trump reelection. I think you all have heard about that, and you all know what that's about. And people were wanting to draw me into that, isn't Trump the worst thing that ever happened to humanity conversation? And I simply didn't want to go there. And, they want to label, oh, you're a Trump supporter. Oh my God, David Strickel's a Trumper. Can you believe he's a Trumper? I'm not, but I'm not going to get drawn into the demonization of that, because I understand that's what's fueling that. That's what's fueling that. And it drives them insane when I say, I don't really have an opinion. And I don't have a problem with people that choose that as their belief system. Oh my God, heads exploding. How can you not demonize people that support that? I said, well, I know people that support that. And instead of just demonizing them, I want to understand where they're coming from. And that's the exercise that I did around that topic. What these people, it just seems so opposite of everybody else, and it's so extreme. And, what is this? And I went into appreciation exercises of exactly what creates that. And I detuned it. And in my detuning of it, I don't demonize that anymore. I don't get triggered by it. I see both sides and don't really care about all of that polarized infighting. And I'm a more joyful and abundant being as a result of that. And that's non-negotiable for me at this point. I'm not willing to lower my vibration to fit in with the crowd. I would rather be alone with my thoughts and with myself than to lower my vibration in order to fit in to a social group or a crowd. That's me. You get to decide what you want for yourself, but understand the power of momentum. And when you start going down that path and you start lowering your vibration to do that, where is your momentum going? You're creating momentum in the direction of the demonization of things. Oh, yeah, that's right. That is terrible. I want to fit in this social gathering, so I'm going to tune into what your vibration is and I'm going to match it. You can do that. There's no rules in TYA. You can do that. But just understand when you make a choice like that, then you're creating momentum in that direction. And if you don't catch yourself, you're going to find yourself back into some old habits that you probably don't want if you're going to the trouble to learn something like this. So momentum is a big topic. It works on everything. It impacts everything. Understanding momentum is very powerful because you understand that, okay, I'm going to start down this path. And if I start down this path, I'm going to get more of the things that are like this path on any topic. So remember that. And when you're starting a detuning exercise, remember, you don't want to race to the worst of the worst in your life, and you don't want to race to the worst and the worst across humanity. That's the matrix trying to draw you back in. How dare you think about appreciating things that you don't like? What about this? That's just the matrix. It's fine. It's just doing its job. We appreciate the matrix. We can appreciate it and laugh it off as something very benign and not something that's evil trying to draw us back into an evil narrative. It's just a tool that humanity has created to separate itself from source very effectively to create a human experience. And it has. And that's great. And we can appreciate that. We can appreciate that it wants us to be part of it, but we don't have to buy into it. Thanks so much for watching.